So when it comes to the cookie biscuit debate, I'm definitely team cookie. Hi, my name's Helen. I'm a chef tutor here at the Waitrose and Partners Cookery School. Today I'm showing you how to make some chocolate chip cookies. If you'd like the full recipe, click the link in the description. They're a great one to make for family and friends. So first things first, you want really soft butter to begin with. Really make sure it's room temperature before you start because it will make it much easier to combine everything by hand. So you want your butter in the bowl, and to that we're going to add our caster sugar and some light muscovado sugar as well. This is what I think makes this recipe really special because it's got that lovely caramel flavour from all of the molasses because it's only partially refined. So you get a really nice depth to it. So we're going to start by mixing everything together, and you just want to use the back of the spoon for this to start bringing the ingredients all into one. But you just want to make it nice and smooth. And the next thing we're going to add in is going to be our egg. And at the same time, we're also going to add in some vanilla extract. So it's about a half teaspoon of this. The egg is actually one of the things that makes this really nice and gooey. When it cooks, it won't kind of have a hard set like a biscuit. So we are using unsalted butter in this recipe. Typically, unsalted will take on flavours better. You can substitute it for salted butter, but you will want to take into account how much salt you add later in the recipe. You might want to take out the salt that we add in with the flour. So next up is going to be our dry ingredients. So you want to sieve these into the bowl. So we're going in with 200 grams of plain flour, and then we're going to do a half teaspoon of salt, a half teaspoon of baking powder, and half teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. So the bicarb in this recipe is really, really important. It's actually vital to the kind of cookie that we're making. It's going to do three things. It's going to slow down the coagulation of the egg. It's going to stop the egg from setting as quickly, so you get that nice spread and a really even thickness. It also speeds up the reaction that makes the cookies go brown in the oven. That's the Maillard reaction. So it will make them go really nice and caramelly, and it will give them a softer bite as well because it kind of inhibits gluten too. So it's really clever and very important that it's in there. So we're going to sieve all these things together, and that will help to disperse them in the mixture really well too. And then we're just going to bring it all into one. So it might feel a little bit dry here. That's fine. It's not a particularly wet mixture, and that's what's so great about it. I think it's going to be really easy to handle later on. So once you have everything brought together in the bowl, that's when you can stop mixing. So next ingredient is our chocolate chips. So I have actually cut my chocolate into really nice big chunks. I think this is the best way to do it because then you end up with those nice slabs of chocolate in the middle of your cookie. But you can use chocolate chips, or you can chop it up a lot finer if you want to as well. So if you wanted to go a little bit more adventurous with your cookies, you could put some cornflakes, some marshmallows in there, even some chunks of fudge. I have been known to put salty pretzels in a cookie before, and that's really good with dark chocolate, so I'd highly recommend. One thing to remember though is try and go for the same volume as the chocolate. If you're doing cornflakes or something like that, you don't want to use the same weight because it will be quite a lot of cornflakes. Now everything's mixed together, we are going to divide it up, and I like a visual aid when I'm doing this, so I always try and divide it in the bowl first. So I'm just going to split it into kind of 4 sections, just with my spoon. We're going to go for 12 cookies here. So we'll go for a couple of heaped teaspoons per cookie. And I'd recommend kind of doing a production line here, dividing them up, popping them on your lined baking trays, and then going around afterwards and shaping them. So also really important that you give them enough space. So I'm using 2 baking trays because I want to space them apart, and that way they can expand in the oven, they can kind of flatten out slightly, and they're not going to merge into each other, they're going to keep their shape. Now that I've got them divided up, I can go back round and ball them, so just between my hands, till I get a nice round shape. It doesn't have to look perfect, it's just to make them spread out nice and evenly. What I like to do at home when I'm making these is actually freeze half of the batch. So once I've balled them up like this, I can put them in my freezer, and then I can have freshly baked cookies whenever I want them. They usually don't last that long though. So these are ready to go into the fridge now, and we're going to rest them for about an hour, but you can rest them overnight if you want to as well. But the longer they're in the fridge, the more flavour actually develops as the sugar and the butter all get together, and you'll end up with a really beautiful tasting cookie. So now you just want to cover them and pop them in the fridge for at least an hour. So these have firmed up really nicely now. It's time to put them in the oven, but I've got one more finishing touch before I put them in there. I always like to finish my cookies with a little bit of flaky sea salt, just a tiny pinch on the surface of each one. I think it plays really nicely with the dark chocolate and the sugar and rounds off that caramel flavour. So now these can go into the oven. They're going to take about 10 to 12 minutes, and I'd keep a close eye on them for when they're just golden on the surface. So once your cookies have baked and they're nice and golden on the surface, you want to give them at least 5 minutes to cool on the tray before you take them off onto a cooling rack, because they're going to continue to firm up while they're sat on the tray. And you can eat them straight away while they're still a bit warm, or you could leave them to cool completely. My personal preference is to let them cool slightly so that you can enjoy the chocolate when it goes a little bit fudgy after it's set. In terms of storage, these will last for about 3 days if you keep them in an airtight container, but you can also pop them in the freezer as well. So if you can't wait, then it's absolutely fine to break into one while they're still cooling. These are absolutely great for sharing with family and friends. My personal preference is serving them with a nice cold glass of milk, so give it a try, you won't regret it.